Hello everyone, nice to see you. Can you believe how short a time it's been? It seems like just yesterday that we last... This YouTube uploading business is easy. Oh my god. When I was a child, so many centuries ago, I once tried to watch Watamote, and all I really remember from that experience was the pitch black void that descended over my convulsing, screaming form, as I was inflicted with the most severe second-hand embarrassment I have ever experienced, coming from the twin dragons of being too relatable for comfort, and from being a scathing depiction of said relatability. I mean, I can barely bring myself to watch The Office, and I count my lucky stars every day that I can't see myself in Ricky Gervais, just to cover my bases. Yes, I know Tomoka gets better as the series goes on, Watamote that is, not The Office, and it's not necessarily a disrespectful depiction of social anxiety so much as it is just an unflinching one, but seeing as I only see half-remembered flashes of it like visions from a spiteful god, it's safe to say that I don't think I can go back, and... Don't get me started on Welcome to the NHK. I'm not even sure it's literally safe for me to watch NHK again. As I mean to imply with this opening gambit, I also suffer from social anxiety. I know. It's hard to believe, what with the Adonis-esque impression of confidence I give off absolutely all of the time, but it's true, which is why it's taken me a year to get around to watching this show despite its popularity. I do wish I'd taken notice slightly sooner so I could have ridden the SEO, but let's not fool ourselves there. I was sure that it would be an uncomfortably relatable experience, that I would be pausing every 5 seconds in a desperate attempt to decompress from the secondhand excruciation that it would inevitably inflict on me. It was with enormous trepidation that I started watching the first couple of episodes, just waiting for the moment when it would all come crashing down on me and I'd have to start huffing into a paper bag like in an old cartoon, or perhaps like if I had a crippling addiction to glue. Does that mean I had anxiety about watching the show about anxiety? Why, yes it does. What a hilariously depressing spiral I found myself in. Fortunately, Bocchi the Rock never gets quite as violently, painfully, brutally relatable as something like Watamote. Miss Goto gets her validation from making videos on YouTube and getting approving comments from other people she doesn't really know, you say. That's nice. I certainly have no window of reference for that experience. So, Hitori Goto, stage name Bocchi from the Japanese word, or perhaps idiom for loneliness, Hitori Bocchi. Hitori Bocchi. Yokoso Hitori Bocchi. Oh no. Bocchi sees a guitarist playing on television who says he used to have social anxiety, and in that flicker of parasocial connection, young Bocchi decides she wants to learn to play the guitar so she too can revel in the popularity of being in a band where even introverts with crippling social anxiety can shine, only to never work up the courage to join or start a band. So right away we're getting into uncomfortably relatable territory until the extrovert ex machina, that is someone who just so happens to need a guitarist for her band, happens, and suddenly Bocchi's living her dream, or at least is trying to, and thus our plot. I know this is almost certainly a trite comparison, but Bocchi the Rock really does give me Yuru Camp vibes, and not least because there's a funny pink-haired girl there who often talks to her thematically fitting tulpas. It's a kinda gentler exploration of the subject matter. Yuru Camp, you can tell, comes from a place of wanting to get people to enjoy camping and decidedly not setting fire to nature reserves. Oops. And likewise, Bocchi is a kind, if tongue-in-cheek, exploration of what it's like to be an introvert with both social and more generalized anxiety. You could show this series to someone who has no idea what living with anxiety is like, and they'd probably understand after watching it, which, and I mean this with no exaggeration, is extraordinarily cool. I can imagine the conversation now. It's not really like that, is it? They might say. Yes, it is, I would reply. Oh no, they'd say. So I watched this, as I often do, stop me if you've heard this before, with a friend who also suffers from anxiety, and the chorus of same, yeah, that's what it's like real, that echoed every time Hitori catastrophized a ridiculous life-altering scenario from the slightest perceived issue, probably meant that it resonated with the two of us very intensely. I don't know one way or the other, and I've not looked into it because I never claimed to be perfect, but it does genuinely feel like the author Aki Hamaji at the very least has a very good understanding of anxiety if she doesn't suffer from it herself. Hey guys, it's your old pal post-production Aaox here. I looked into it, and Miss Hamaji said that the character she most associates with is Bocchi, so there you go. I may not be perfect, but I am at least capable of playing a game of chicken with authorial intent. Thanks, Wikipedia. I do research occasionally, oftentimes after I've recorded the script for an episode. It's a more sympathetic look at the subject than something like Watamote, although it's not so kind as to pull punches. There's still an edge to the show, and the cringe comedy is still present even if it's not omnipresent, and rarely does it feel like it's being actively mean to Bocchi. Rather, it doesn't look away or pretend that it's not hugely difficult to struggle with this, but it keeps it lighthearted enough that it isn't, monumentally depressing. In the same way that Yuru Camp took pains to show that Rin's introversion wasn't necessarily a bad thing, BTR goes out of its way to say that whilst social anxiety can be paralyzing and has real, substantial, and detrimental effects, it's not something that can't be overcome. Bocchi the Rock is to Watamote what Yuru Camp is to, Survivor Man. The entire cast of side characters are excellent as well. They're a broad spectrum. Ryo is a good example of an introvert who is comfortable in their introversion, a la Rin from Yuru Camp. Nijika is a bubble of enthusiasm and serves as a good counterweight to Bocchi's sometimes literally miasmatic presence, and Kita is one of those blasted normies who by all rights should have exploded by now. And that's just the core cast. Some of the side characters are even more entertaining than the main cast. For example, this drunk idiot kicks ass. I love her so much, so does everyone else. She's that good. Alcoholism, happiness spiral, try this at home, kids. She is ritually impure in every religion. Christ, I love you. The show's popularity really exploded when people started posting clips of Bocchi's anxiety attacks around, which are very well visually represented. I've been fortunate to only have had one panic attack in my life, but the first person sequence in which Bocchi's vision started to glitch out like she'd played too much Cyberpunk really made me point and go, despite the comedy inherent in the presentation of this scene, it's doing a remarkable job of showing what that feels like. But it did so without becoming uncomfortable to sit through, and then Bocchi screams and glitches out into a mess of colour and sound, which I don't think happened to me, but it's hard to say. There's always enough comedy and off-kilter humour to offset the more serious aspects and to keep it feeling positive rather than revel in the horror of it all. There's a certain laissez-faire approach to the animation in Bocchi that really works for the subject matter. I can't describe the emotion I felt when I saw everyone enjoying JPEGs of taco senbei at the beach, nor the emotion I felt later on when I realized the animation team actually just bought some taco senbei and literally just slammed them into a scanner wholesale to achieve the effect. Or, I think, is the closest word I have to describe it. And on the subject of animation, I found that usually the animation in musical sequences in shows like this are pretty obviously rotoscoped, and whilst I do believe that the musical performances are very much still made using that approach, they've put a lot of effort into making the animation look less naturalistic and more animated, like how they sometimes blur Bocchi's strumming hand but keep her hand on the frets looking clear. Also, did you know guitars sound really cool? Perhaps I've been wrong this whole time and Miss Hamaji just wanted to get across how cool guitars are. Ever flipped an amp into overdrive and gone, hey, this sounds really cool? I have. And if she's trying to make us want to get back into guitar, hey, good work. Oh, and also Bocchi's voice actor deserves an award. Has she won an award? Do they give voice actors awards? I don't know, I hope so. Here's one I made, she gets it. Bocchi's VA wins it. What's her name? Yoshino Aoyama? Incredible. Congratulations in winning the inaugural Aaox VA Performance Award. This is a special award because I'm giving it out again to Miyuki Sawashiro in perpetuity. My heartfelt congratulations to the winners. Who's the guy who did Hachiman from Origairu? Takuya Higuchi. He gets one as well for that big breath he took in the show's second season. Round of applause, everyone. One of the most prominent narrative points that BTR really takes effort to put forth is that it does take a lot of courage for an introvert with anxiety to do things that come naturally to people who are more extroverted, and that doesn't feel very fair, but that also doesn't make doing those things any less heroic if they're things you struggle with. When going out the front door scares you, if you go out the front door, that's something to be really proud of, and I enjoyed how the show gives Bocchi some time to celebrate her successes, even if said celebrations are often short-lived. No matter how brief the reprieve, they do let her dwell in the confidence that overcoming her anxiety gives her, and I really appreciate that. She's a character who you want to root for, rather than the butt of the joke, even when she is the butt of the joke. When I saw that Bocchi's online handle was Guitar Hero, I thought it was a reference to Harmonix's illustrious plastic guitar collecting simulators, but as the series progressed, and indeed, as one character outright states, for someone like Bocchi, being a hero is as simple as making eye contact with people in the street. And that can be really scary sometimes, and it's genuinely really brave to overcome that, and it's presented as being brave, and it's really nice. There's a generosity to the depiction of social anxiety here, but the show doesn't sacrifice its comedic chops or its narrative to achieve that, which I think is one of the reasons why it took off the way it did. It's a fantastic comedy, it's an uplifting story, it's visually interesting, it sounds great, it looks great, it's great. It fires on all cylinders, every aspect of it is given the attention it deserves, and shines as a result of it. I'm sorry for saying you sucked, Cloverworks, I was just mad at Franks at the time. I give this show 1 Bocchillion out of 10. Free run review coming next. Might do something with Edge Runners. I'd like to check out that new Scott Pilgrim show. Is it an anime? Is it a cartoon? I'm bringing the debate back. But until then, everyone, I'll see you on the sunny side. Love you. Thanks for watching.
Guitar は友達でもいつか